We're here at Gamescom to talk a little bit more about a story of redemption. I think it's apt to say both for you guys at the studio and of the game as well.
Yes, yes. We're making Afro to Revenge of Kuma, and it is. For a long time, we wanted to make this game. We've been wanting to sort of take Afro in another direction, and as Kuma, playing in the story of trying to find Afro, we think we've found a sweet spot.
Because, I mean, let's start at the beginning. Some of you guys at Redacted Studios, you did the original Afro Samurai, and you weren't entirely happy with the outcome.
Yeah, there were, for a lot of reasons, we weren't happy with the outcome. The gameplay wasn't as polished as it needed to be. There were a lot of bugs in the game. The camera was just subpar. We spent a lot of time focusing on a quality game, but in the end, there was just a lot of bugs that we couldn't get fixed before we finished. So we want to get back to that. You know, it's always been our mission to get back to Afro and fix that and make it right.
And suddenly, all the puzzle pieces came together, and you were able to sort of get this new studio going, find a publisher, and work on the license again.
Yeah, that was actually pretty hot. When we left Namco about 2.5 years ago, we got this great blessing from them, and that is the use of all the tools and technology to continue with Afro. And a lot of the guys have always said, you know, no matter how far away we go in the world, if this happens, call us home. And that's exactly what I did. I said, Afro's coming up. Are you going to come home? And they all said yes, and so they all came back. Yes. It was great. It was great. It's like a movie where all the heroes come back after being away from each other for a long time. It was really cool.
And it's a great story in that sense. And what part did sort of Versus Evil play and sort of, I mean, because
Huge. Okay, so one, games aren't made by themselves. It's a team effort, right? And you need publishing because that's where the money and the expertise on the marketing sales side comes in. And when it comes to games like Afro that are kind of really unique and kind of weird, that have a really steady, stalwart audience, it really takes people like Versus Evil who have a really open mind and sort of an eye to the future, especially when it comes to digital publishing, to take groups like us and say, you have a crazy idea that we think could be popular, go for it. And they were really similarly important to us in marching that forward.
I also understand that you're getting a little bit of freedom to take the fiction in a direction that makes sense for the game this time around, and that you've got some license to sort of.
Yes, we're working very closely with Takashi Okazaki, who's the original creator of Afro, and working with him weekly to try to craft a new part of the story, right? A new part of the license that fits where we want to go on the gameplay side, inventing new characters, inventing new worlds where the characters can actually exist in, to just make it evergreen and to make it hot.
So, I'm not quite sure I understand it correctly. It's a digital title, but your plan is to sort of expand it as you go. That's the idea.
Yeah. Because for us, it's the quality of play now, right? And when it comes to the license, when you're dealing with, I think the original manga is like 2,000 years old, or 2,000 years in existence, right? So we want to make sure we have the opportunity to go in any direction we want. And with digital, you can do that, right? You can go in any direction. You don't have to worry about being in development for 4 years before you ship something. You don't have to worry about shipping something and not being able to tweak it and fix it and be responsive to the fans and the players. And that's a perfect environment for a game like Afro, which is really atmospheric, and it really depends on the fans to enjoy it and love it and husband it, and digital does that absolutely for us.
And one thing you cannot go without mentioning is the music, of course. You did a little bit of a different take on the new musical side here, but of course there are some things that sort of inherent to it that you have to have in there. But can you tell us how the approach with the music this time?
Yeah, so the franchise is really steeped in hip hop. Hip hop is the blood of this franchise, and in the previous game, it was actually a huge part of the development, right? And it was very popular. The soundtrack was very popular. It won awards. And what we wanted to do here is, 10 years ago when the game shipped, hip-hop was a very American sort of construct. Now hip-hop is worldwide. There's hip-hop all over the world. And what we want to do is Afro as a franchise is a world franchise now. And so we want to invite all of those contributors from hip-hop all over the world, all those fans who love Afro and do hip-hop. We want to call them home and say, this is your game, no matter where you are in the world. And so we're inviting those people to come and work with us. And we have this very cool sort of cameo feature where hip-hop artists are actually doing VO for the game. They're actually getting new characters into the game. It's fucking going to be hot.
Absolutely. And one other thing that it's gonna be hard to explain because I got to see it and that's a little bit easier. But the face of death thing that you're doing there, it's like it's a little bit weird. Can you try and explain it, put it into words?
Well, what we wanted to do in this game is we wanted to make every enemy you deal with very important. We want the weight of that combat, that battle, that taking of that person's life to be very important, right, to the play. So we wanted, from his perspective, to try to really show you the weight of that combat, and so with the Faces of Death camera, it takes sort of the boss camera to the next level, where now you actually feel the intensity of being the actual boss, getting your butt kicked in the middle of a fight, and then so the struggle is actually more pronounced. You actually get to feel both sides of it. So ultimately, when you win, you feel exhausted because you have the emotional connection between both people, and it's almost like a knife fight within 2 or 3 feet of each other, or a wrestling match. You just feel spent emotionally and physically at the end. It's going to be great.
Well, I hope that's not any personal experience you're talking about there.
No. It's just going to be hot though on screen. We want it to be really unique. Yeah.
All right. So as far as I understand it, early next year, PC, PS4, Xbox One.
Absolutely, all 3, all 4 actually. PS4, Xbox One, and Steam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.